Prologue B.L.M. This is not a regular book you're about to read. I lead with no pattern or format, and most of the book consists of statistics and thoughts. Therefore you will not get a book of chapters, but you will get real statistics and real people's opinion of the situations. I felt I needed to just deploy my thoughts sporadically so I can give a blunt picture of these events, just think of a movie on paper. I promise you all that this way will give you all a more vivid picture and keep you all interested. It's ironic that the current events took place around the time of me finishing up this book. I don't want people to think that this book was inspired by the new controversy of the George Floyd case. Like I said, this book was done over the course of 8 years on and off. After my release from prison, I got caught up with music and never finished up. So with this burst of rage and energy, I felt the time was now. B.L.M. This is a new day and age, a new generation, yet with these new times we still have applied within our legal system just us. What does the word mean? Just us to me is an ambiguous term. What just us to me may not be justice for anyone else. Sad to say, the law has contradicted themselves and everything else they stand for. Why should we fear the ones that's supposed to protect us? Police have taken up on a hostile approach when it comes to fighting crime. It's almost to the point of me feeling like we're going back to the land of the lawless. In this day and time, police is killing at an alarming rate. Later on I will get to the actual statistics on the subject. When I did my research, I couldn't believe the numbers I've seen. I tried not to make it a race issue, but the numbers leave me with no choice. But it's one thing we need to pay attention to, and that's who was getting killed. To see the young black innocent getting picked off is insane. Young black students going to school or getting gas or getting murdered with invalid justification. To get straight to the point, we have a major issue as blacks, since we keep on attacking the problem the same way. Words. Yes, I must admit words are very, very powerful, but they only go so far. In this prejudice world now, the first thing some of you all readers are thinking I'm talking about resulting to violence. No. I mean to take action by saving one life, and you will save generations by saving just that one person. Me personally, I don't care for the public press. It's a must, but it's not my choice. Exposing one's hands on change will only lead to the same results from our historical figures. Minimum change over the hands of time. We all should know by now action is more effective than words. So which do you choose? Saying goes, I'd rather be the quiet giant that saved thousands than the loud elf that helped millions. Don't you think it's tiring to keep hearing about what we need to do, and them same individuals as some of our black activists? Where is the results from their end? No one wants to get results for a leader that gets no results themselves. Remember, save one and you save many generations to come. Now let's get down to business. Activeness. Activist. Awareness. Blacks are being killed and incarcerated at an alarming rate, a rate that I don't think the average person can actually understand until it's put together in a visual that the person can see all in one shot instead of long periods at a time. By that I mean I want you to see how many blacks are really being killed all at one time, instead of hearing about a black getting killed every other month or year. We must remember that a lot of black murders get no exposure national or international wise. At times the murder will only be exposed in the place where the murder occurred. So I want to give this disturbing but useful information in order for people to be able to be aware and to be able to take action in a more active manner, and I don't mean violence. So let's get to it. Read to the victims murdered by the hands of police, and to the families still suffering from having loved ones incarcerated with long terms for trumped up unjustified charges. This one is for you all. History is repeating itself in a more appealing form. I personally feel that it's all the same, just with technology added. Now here is a popular discussion amongst the black communities. Everyone is trying to wonder, why is it police isn't shooting to disarm? I'm not saying it's granted or justified when police shoot an armed suspect, but it is abnormal. But there should be no argument as to why someone should get killed that's unarmed. And it's one thing to let off a shot out of fear or a torso shot, but the police is now taking shots directly to the head. Isn't this overkill? So we come to the obvious. There are officers just out for the kill. We can go even further and add capital murder to the list also. Not only are they shooting to kill, they're even gunning us down. There are situations I will illustrate where cops chased unarmed black males down and shot them, then continue to shoot while they're on the ground injured, unarmed, and pleading for their lives. Even situations where police are coming in black family homes and killing blacks. It's no way to really put it, racism still exists. It's ironic how years later I'm covering this situation when I was the first one who didn't want to even talk about this type of subject until I realized that all it takes is awareness to make you understand better. 2017 is supposed to be hands down the most unbiased, unprejudiced year out of all. With all the history we have in the past and racist laws we'd conquered, why is it black men are still getting beat brutally for no reason on camera? I figured for most who are reading this, y'all will already have known most of the murders and assaults that have taken place over the past 50 years. One thing I know most didn't pay attention to was the comparisons. Compare the crimes and punishments by and done to blacks opposed to whites. One thing I've always wanted to speak on is, why is it when any other race receive injustice it's rarely talked about? Why do the media choose what murder or assault is suitable for the front page or news? Smaller urban communities that are affected by police violence the most are less likely to get worldwide exposure via paper or news. Why? More leaders, more action. My thoughts on the racial tension in America stands the same as yours. Confused and upset, I'm the same boat as you. Just because I'm deploying my thoughts and projecting them on paper doesn't make me any different or superior. What I'm saying is everyone needs to make their own awareness avenues. Don't feel discouraged or intimidated by ones who are doing it on a higher level. Whether it be a book, song, or motion picture, make yourself known for attempting to make a difference at the very least. Right now I know for a fact there's more young black entrepreneurs than before when racism still was blatant. How is that possible? You have to ask, if there's so much racism, why is there so many young kids with no schooling making millions legitimately? What I'm saying is the best revenge is success. There will always be the two opposing sides, the non-racist and racist. You all might think my thought process is wrong on this, but I feel that racism will always exist, and people who feel to try to do away with it is a waste of their time. But I will never discourage or sway their journey and movement. One more time, awareness is everything, and self-progress trumps all. Better yourself to better the next person. But the black activists seem to be so engrossed in other people's lives that their life is in shambles. You can't follow a so-called leader that has their own path to pave. I'd rather reach 10 people and change their lives than to reach millions and get a bunch of bandwagons. People tend to follow the masses. A lot of movements and activists are only followed by their popularity and ability to promote themselves. Some feel if they have the credits and certifications that these activist words are gold. I think a lot of people that are following should be the ones leading. In the 1800s, the first police force was based in Boston up north to control the rapid increase of population. From the beginning of times it's been police brutality deployed on blacks. So what's the difference now? The difference is we actually have more freedom and power in these days of time. Back in the days we had less power in the press. With every year that we grew relevant in the press, the more the subject of blacks being killed came up more frequently. Now with a full layout of all the injustice by the police in one shot, how do you feel? My goal was to get people to see everything in one shot instead of what they want you to see in bits and pieces. Even though I didn't cover a lot of the injustice, this was enough to make you all get motivated and see that this world is prejudice, but tries ways to circumvent and overcome it. False leaders, false tales. Cop shootings has evolved over time, and we don't even realize that we won't see the real impact until we understand the origin of cop shootings. First question I have to ask is, whatever happened to shoot to disarm? This should be the procedures every time, unless the subject is violent and pose a risk to officers or civilians. Then the next question is, why is it that the body cams the officers are wearing the evidence isn't sufficient enough to convict them? With the two perfect precautions to stop police brutality, we still have the issue, which leads us to the obvious. This is exactly the way the government wants things to transpire, so therefore there won't be no change on their behalf. The laws will always be in their government favor. It's the same if predominantly blacks ran the office. It would be laws to fit black ideologies and way of life, common sense. So if we can all conclude on that, what's the best way to counterattack the laws? You don't. Unless you're into law and politics. My opinion is you leave it alone and make change within your family, friends, then one individual at a time. And if you have a career that causes you to gain a large following and gain a good reach, you can then make a difference because of it. But how can you stop cop shootings when the shootings come from humans, and humans are needed to run a police force? People have feelings, sicknesses, needs. Some people have prejudice harbored in them. Some are racist, and those things can be hidden. There's no test in the police academy when you start that can tell if you're racist or not. So that's a losing battle. You have officers that get these positions did are wrong from the beginning, then you have officers that weren't like that from the start. It most likely was a situation to cause them to have a certain hate for a race, which people will call racism. I'm not sure how I will react if a certain race were to kill or rape a family member. I'm sure my fondness of that race will go down. So I say that to say this: will racism end? No. Can we fight it? Sure. But why? Instead of bettering ourselves, we so caught up in fighting a fight that's effortless to the point we self-destruct. Let the politics do their job, and us civilians 9-to-5ers are victims of the struggle. We need to start securing financial freedom. Everyone has talents, and these talents are going to waste because everyone wants to follow. They deploy the leader status to us like it's supposed to be a few, but in reality leaders can be in multitudes. It was always like that from the beginning of time, so why not now? Ruler of your own destiny is the key phrase. We need more leaders. All these black activists you all following, you all need to unfollow them and become leaders yourselves. It's enough space in the world for more leaders. Trust me, it takes no rocket scientist to see that. Being a victim of racism doesn't give you a reason to be racist, but it gives inclination for vindictiveness and hate. Right now the same thing that's happening in music is the same with these cop shootings. A bandwagon effect. When the first cop shooting went unanswered, the next came, and eventually cops felt like they can do the same. The part in this all that baffles me is, why do people feel the need to tell people how to defend themselves against police? Let's be real. How? They tell us all types of precautions, but none of them has been effective enough to stop the killings. Racial profiling has been the ultimate excuse for brutality against its never-ending battle. What is a black person to dress like? If they say head is baggy jeans and rags is a profile. Stop wearing urban wear and dress preppy or like other races. Never gonna happen. Blacks dress black, Mexicans dress Mexican, whites dress white, and so forth. As soon as a black person dress white, they get ridiculed for trying to be white. Let's get one thing straight, the best precaution to this is right in front of our face. Stay out the way. It already seems that the innocent is targeted, so I can't say don't break the law, but I can tell you this: your lifestyle dictates your amount of police contact along with location. Lifestyle and location is some of the best precautions from police fatality. We know it's factual that if you're in a high crime-ridden neighborhood, you will have high police contact whether you're a law-abiding citizen or not. If your lifestyle consists of you being in public places, as in being a music artist or partygoer, you will have high police contact. If your lifestyle and location cause you to be aggressive or nervous around police, your encounters can prove fatal. Okay, crucify me for saying this, but if you live in a blatant racist state and you're the minority and is not willing to make change by force, you should be thinking about relocation. Facts. I feel some states should be abandoned by blacks because of the way the state is ran or who it's ran by. What are you all going to do? Keep getting killed and cry out for help when you become a victim? This is one of the plights. Different races are either forced to live amongst each other or, because of the written law, allows low, middle and high income citizens to live in the same area. I know you're all saying if I live in the ghetto I get harassed, but even if I move to the suburbs they'll racially profile me. In reality you're all right. But that's why I added lifestyle, because when you're living wrong your reactions and the way you carry yourself dictates a lot when it comes to police encounters. We need to look at some issues at hand we're not paying attention to. For one, the police is not the only worries of blacks. Can we go back to when a nation store clerk killed a black girl in live for stealing and got acquitted? At the moment blacks should have realized that America put black lives at a lower value than any other race. It's almost an encouragement on the government's behalf when they let different races get away with violence with no repercussions amongst one race. So title and race hold no boundaries. White police, Asian store clerk, Latino gang member, black thug, you pick the poison. Blacks have been done wrong by all said races in the past, so you need to ask yourself, is the police our only and biggest problem? While we target one issue, other issues go unseen. When all reality police homicides been happening, focus on the full problem, then a solution can occur until then the issues will keep on escaping and transforming into different forms that we will then have to identify first before we can even start to solve them. Before finishing this book, the black community was struck with a tragic event. George Floyd's death took the world by storm. The death was one of many, but it was the way he died that caused the outrage. While being handcuffed and held face down, his arresting officer decided to put his knee in the back of his neck. For multiple minutes the officer was seen with an impassive look on his face. With George Floyd, the case of the century happened in this misfortunate event where George Floyd lost his life in a gruesome attack by police officer Derek Chauvin. It's been a long journey and it continues with everyday violence from the police. This doesn't mean to get discouraged. We're at a time where I call it evening the odds. African Americans are garnering success at an all-time high. And with success the chances are higher for more black lives to be saved. You can't stop police tactics, but you can expand life with success. Before fully finishing this book, blacks took a loss in the death of George Floyd. His death was a shock to everyone because of the way he passed away. This was a clear example of the injustice going on in America. We all thought that the body cameras was the key to it all, but we all were sadly mistaken. There was even a famous screenshot that was taken from a live video being recorded that shows the officer Derek Chauvin with his knee in the back of Floyd's neck. That very screenshot was a clear piece of evidence to prosecute the officer. So this book is for George Floyd and all the fellow. At first I wanted to give a full collage of fallen brothers, and then I felt overwhelmed by the numbers. So I felt it was only right to present the top 3 that affected me the most. Sean Bell was the first murder that I was directly affected by. This happening in New York was crazy to me. We had things occur in the city prior like the Amadou Diallo and Abner Limo cases, but for a young black man like me attending his event and murdered was scary to me. The fact that he was shot at over 50 times was more scary. Mike Brown was the second murder I was affected by because of his age and the fact that he wasn't armed. His death sparked one of the biggest protests to date. The officer on that case claimed to fear for his life and was not indicted. Trayvon Martin was the third case that didn't stem from police brutality but in a similar form. This is when the world was introduced to the stand your ground law. Even though the law been implemented years prior. A man acting as police taps only a civilian took it upon himself to murder a kid coming from the store. As for the details, we all know them, but the details need not matter when an innocent life was taken. Sidebar, I've never heard of stand your ground before the Trayvon case. Hopefully with this info we can change our mind and thought process. I always say it's the start that counts. And I feel that we need to start supporting these same individuals that getting assaulted or murdered careers and lives, not saying that these murders won't occur, but the numbers most definitely won't be the same. The outcome starts from the income. I feel there's no way all these victims would have been in a position if they had the same attention they got after their demise. We're not realizing how our thoughts and support creates a whole different lane for individuals to be able to prosper off of. But yet we ignore them while they're alive. The internet has shaped the world to be so immune to violence that once one new situation occurs we'd forget about the prior ones. So I felt someone had to put together a full visual of what's going on. The world needs to see that the cycle of police brutality is continuous and that there needs to be a different use of methods. Following the same blueprint has landed us in the same situation every time. That we may change. Yes, we have, but the word change means something evolving from its original state. And that's what is happening. We're getting exactly what we asked for. We shouldn't want it to change, we should want it to stop. As I'm writing this they have the police reform bill being talked about. They even had rumors of dismantling the police force altogether. How did we let it get so bad where they're talking about police reform? The bigger question is how will police reform affect our communities? About the author Chynxx. Brynxx is a New York native who found his love for book writing while incarcerated in federal prison for drug trafficking. He's currently working on his second novel which will go into the urban genre. Originally a music artist, Chynxx is in the studio working on his fourth mixtape due to release later this year. Contact him at Chynxx Brynxx on social media and for business Chynxx.Brynxx333@gmail.com.